I am going to show you how to roll out and cut your pasta with a KitchenAid attachment. All right, so our dough has now rested, and now we are going to roll it out and cut it using the KitchenAid pasta attachments. These are usually used for egg dough. Egg dough is rolled out and cut, shaped, or formed, different from semolina dough, which is made with semolina flour and water, and that is usually extruded to make the pasta that you find at the store, or it's hand formed to make like cavatelli. So first, what I like to do when flattening my pasta is I like to cut it in half, and I like to work on pieces. With 2 eggs, you totally can just do this in one go. But sometimes if your air is dry, then while your pasta sheets are being flattened and cut, the other pasta sheet could get dry. So I kind of just like to work in smaller bits. You can do it however you want, but I'm just going to cut this in half, and I'm gonna keep the other half covered, again, because we wanna hold that moisture inside our dough. First, what we're gonna do, we are going to flour our sheet, and we're gonna do this throughout this rolling process. And this is just to make sure that our dough, when it goes through our attachments, that it doesn't stick to the inside of here. And also you want to make sure to flour it so that when you cut your fettuccine, and especially your spaghetti, since it's so thin, it really does tend to stick. I'll show you what to do if it does stick, but that's why we really want to make sure and continue to flour our pasta sheets as they go through the rollers and through the cutter. So we are going to just remove this little screw on the front, and this just comes off, and in here, that is where your attachment goes. So you kind of have to like find it, okay? So it's in here, and this in here is when you start these. This is what moves this, but it's also what moves this. So when you put it in here, so when you screw this in, this moves this, but it also moves this. So we're gonna turn this off. So first thing we wanna do is make sure we're on level 1. So level 1 is the widest for the KitchenAid attachments. I know some manual machines, possibly some attachments might go backwards. So just make sure when you move them, if it gets smaller, you're gonna want the widest one. You're gonna want the one that's the absolute widest when you go the first go round. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do one way through on each level. So we just wanna ease up the levels. If you started at 6, then there's a possibility that your dough will be pressed too hard too quickly, and then it could break, form air bubbles and just all that stuff. So you just want to do it slowly. So we're starting at 1, the widest setting. So this is my dough. I've just pushed it down by hand. This dough is super soft and pliable. If for some reason you maybe added a little bit more flour into your dough, and it seems like it's just not as soft, you can also take a rolling pin and roll this, or just with your hand flatten it as much as you can, because we just don't want to burn out the motor. So we want to just like let this work and not overwork it. So when I add my pasta in through, sometimes because it's so stretchy, I will like, form it into a flat bottom And as it goes through, I kind of do the same on the top. And this is just to make like a rectangle. So you don't have to do that, especially if you're doing flat fettuccine or spaghetti. It doesn't matter if it's in an oval or a rectangle. It's more if you're making shaped pasta or filled pasta that gets cut into those squares, and it just is so that you have more pasta to work with, basically. So we're gonna go, and we're gonna go on level 1 speed. Okay, and this is our first through, so it's definitely much longer. And right now, I don't have to put flour on it, but I'm going to because I just want to make sure, you know, it's well floured for the cutting process. Okay. All right, and now we're gonna move up to level 2. So we're gonna go to level 6. I usually go to 5 or 6. You can go to 7 or 8. This goes up to 8. That's super, super thin. So like a tagliatelle would be really thin, but I definitely like a bite to my pasta. I have found that you really need to go to at least 6 for the spaghetti, because if you go any thicker, it goes through too thick, and then the spaghetti can kind of like attach to itself or come out and double. So you kind of want it to be flatter so that that doesn't happen. It doesn't stick. All right. Again, we're just gonna like flatten that bottom, flatten the top. Okay. So we're good. So right now, you can see that there's still flour on it. I'm not gonna add more flour. If this was like August and it was super humid out, I would be putting flour through each level, flouring it well. But since it's just not that wet, then I don't need to. If you live in Florida or Hawaii, somewhere that it's like so moist and wet, then you probably do want to flour through each round. Level 3. All right, we're losing some of the flour because it's just getting like pressed into the dough. So I'm just going to lightly flour it. And it's kind of just as you go. If it was sticky right now, then I would add a lot more flour, but it's not sticky at all. So it's just kind of test and like see what your dough and sheet feels like. So now level 4. And you can definitely go faster. Okay, so that was level 4. Again, I'm still seeing that flour, and I actually have a little flour on my table, so I'm just gonna pick that up with my sheet because it just needs minimal flour. All right, we're going to level 5. All right, and you can see how long it's getting. So nice and long. So we're gonna go through to level 6. So we're on level 6 right now. I'm gonna flatten it, and then I'm gonna cut it in half, and I'm gonna show you how to cut fettuccine versus spaghetti. If it gets too long for you, if you rolled out 2 full eggs, then You probably want to cut it even before now, but cut it whenever you want. You can even cut that dough ball into quarters, whatever you want. You're just going to get smaller pieces. So it doesn't matter how you cut it. It's more just like you don't want it too long that you can't handle. And also if it's too long, then it could possibly like fold or whatever, and then it folds on itself. And when it comes out, it's going to be all folded and kind of be double. And if it does fold, you can just keep rolling it through. Just keep flattening it and it should be fine, especially with the machine. Okay, level 6. So see, I'm kind of helping it over so that it doesn't go that way. Okay, so now we've got our beautiful pasta sheet. So this is what it looks like. So we went to level 6. If you like it super thin, go further, you know, go to 7, go to 8. You can test it out. The thinner you go, the bigger possibility that it could break if you pair it with like a really heavy or thick sauce. So now it's super long. It's not really sticky, but I am going to flour it because we're going to cut it now. All right, so I'm flouring it nice because I am cutting this out with my attachments. So we are done with the flattener. So we can set that aside. All right, so we are going to cut the middle of this. So you can also, of course, use a knife. This is my bench scraper. I love this tool. I use it for so many things with pasta making, cutting, holding up your pasta, cleaning your table, cutting the dough with the initial kneading. So, okay, beautiful pieces. So we are just, now we are going to cut our pasta. So when you buy the KitchenAid attachments, the classic version, you're gonna have a fettuccine and a spaghetti. This KitchenAid attachment creates more of a, it's like a very thin spaghetti. I personally feel like it's a bit closer to capellini, which is like an angel hair. So that's especially why we want to make sure it's nice and floured, because they're so thin that it like it's just a higher chance that they're going to stick together. So we're going to start with our fettuccine. So I like to do the oval side down. So if I had, if I had squared these off or cut these into 3s, then you totally can start with this. It's almost like an arrow like this. It's less of an area to have to catch. So it catches like super, super quickly when you use the area that's rounded or pointed. So we're gonna go through here. Just gonna do the first level speed. Okay, so now here is our beautiful fettuccine. And I just catch it with my hand in like the center of your sheet as it comes through. And here's our beautiful pasta. You can see that it's very nicely coated with flour. So it's nice and dry. I don't have to worry about flouring this any further. So if it was not dry, then all I would do is lay it on my table, sprinkle some flour, and just toss it super gently with my hands, and so that it coats all of your cut pieces. So I'm just gonna lay this gently. like this until I am ready to cook it up or store it. So this is ready to cook immediately in salted boiling water for 2 to 5 minutes, I like to say, because it really depends on what thickness you went to. If you rolled this by hand and you didn't really get it that thin, then it could cook in over 5 minutes. You just have to taste a noodle as you're cooking it. I like to taste it after 2 to 3 minutes, depending on how thick it is. And then just keep testing really until it's perfectly al dente or perfect how you like it. So now fettuccine is cut. We're gonna just unscrew our attachment and we are going to add our spaghetti attachment now. So much thinner width. So our spaghetti, same thing. We're gonna go first with the rounded area. And just like I did, I'm just gonna catch it about halfway through. And I am just going to gently lay this down. Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is ready to cook immediately in salted boiling water for 2 to 5 or more minutes. And it's just dependent on how thin or thick you rolled your sheet. Spaghetti is gonna cook faster than the fettuccine. So it's gonna be like 1 to 2 minutes for the spaghetti, 3 to 4 minutes for the fettuccine at this thickness. You can store it by hanging to dry, and that is good for months. You can just stick it in a airtight container in a dry, cool place, and it will be good for months. You can also freeze it, which is what I usually do, just a bit easier. So stick it directly in your freezer like this, let it harden for like 30 minutes to an hour, and then transfer it to a freezer bag for up to a few weeks. I like to eat it within a week so that it's the freshest possible, but it will be good for weeks, even months. So here's what to do if your pasta is sticky at all. So you can tell this is like a little bit sticky. Even if it's way sticky, this is gonna work. So we're going to just add some flour and we're gonna just gently toss it in our flour. And this is so that each strand gets coated with flour. And they'll be nice and not stick together. All right, so even if you did that, you can just stick this right into the freezer like this, and then you add it to your boiling salted water from frozen. Don't thaw, it will just stick if you do that, and it will cook up in about 1 or 2 more minutes than if it was fresh. So thank you guys so much for joining this class, and don't forget to follow Buona Pasta Club on any platform that you're on. I hope you loved this. Cheers.